Hey, how you going? It's Damien here. In this video, we're going to have a quick look at the HubSpot Meeting Scheduler. We're going to look at how to use it, why you would want to use it, all the different options that you can choose, and some best practices around creating your meetings links. So you can see what we're talking about when we're talking about a meetings scheduler. It's what you can see on your screen now. So it's a link that you can send to a person, or you can embed it on a web page, and it connects to your calendar, whether that's Google or Outlook or any other system. It'll connect to that calendar, and it will sync your availability with your actual calendar. So if you've got some time blocked out, it won't let someone double book you there. So it'll only show times you're available. You can configure everything like the meeting length, so you can have multiple links. You might have a 15-minute meeting or a 60-minute meeting or an all-day meeting. And the beauty of this is it just saves a lot of back and forth, whether it's for sales or customer service or things like that. Instead of having to say to the person, are you free tomorrow at 12 or 2, you just say, here's my link, book some time. And as I mentioned, embedding it on a website is also really powerful too for lead generation. So someone comes to your website, instead of getting them to fill in a contact form and then wait around for someone to get back to them, you embed the meetings link just like what you can see on my screen here. The person books directly in with the salesperson or a team member, and then they've got the meeting scheduled. You can send them reminders and things like that. So now that we've cleared up what a meeting link is, let's jump into HubSpot and have a look at how you create them. So within HubSpot here at the moment, they're here under library. HubSpot's always changing this interface, so they might be in a different spot. But basically what they're called in HubSpot is meeting scheduler. So if you come into the meeting scheduler section, you'll probably see it blank. And the first time you actually use this, you'll have to click on a button that says, connect your calendar or start using meetings or something like that. And you do need to make sure your calendar is connected, because it's not much use if you set up this meetings link and then someone books and you're out of the office at that time, you don't work on that day, or you've got another meeting or something like that. So connect your calendar, and then you'll have the option up here to create a scheduling page. Now, these three different types of meeting, one-to-one is the most common type, and it's pretty self-explanatory. It's just one person on your team versus one customer or one lead or whatever it is. So one person can book with one person. Group is when you want multiple people on your team to be available at the same time. So it's going to check everyone's availability. So we use this sometimes for an onboarding session, and we need a couple of people from our team to be available for that meeting. On the customer's end, there might just be one person, but we want multiple people from our team. So it won't, if only one of us is available, it won't show that time. It'll only show when we're both available, or all the group of us. And round robin is really good if you've want it to be like a anonymous from your end. You just want it to be like book with our team, and it's going to allocate it to one or more people. And the reason you might want to do that is if you've got a salesperson and they're going to go away on holidays or something like that, and you don't want that completely shutting down your ability. Or if you've got multiple salespeople and it really doesn't matter who takes the call, or you can route them, but you basically want to have the ability to allocate it to different people on your team. So it could be one customer and allocated to multiple people. Might only be one person, but the ability to allocate it to multiple people on your team. Okay, so in this example, we'll just do one-to-one because that's the most common and simplest. We just give it an internal name, so the customer's not going to see this name. It's just so that you can keep organized along the meetings titles. You choose who the organizer is going to be, so it will default to yourself, but if you're building this for someone else on your team, you can do that. Event title, you can just leave this blank, and it will just put in the first name, the first and last name of the person booking, and the first and last name of the organizer. That's usually what I do. If you want to, you can get fancy and put a custom title in there. You might say discovery call with, and put your business name, and you can put in any tokens that you've got about the person, whether you gather that on the meeting or whether you've already got it in the CRM about them. It'll populate it into the event title. Location, again, you can just leave that blank. If you want to put in like a Zoom meet or a Google Meet or a Teams, MS Teams, you can add that here. You will need to connect that extension in your settings before you're able to add it to your meeting. This is a really handy feature too, so that the person, give the person the ability to cancel and reschedule. So you don't even have to interact with them. They can just go to that meeting link and reschedule all in the background. They're not having to bother you with, hey, can we move this meeting to this time? And likewise with cancel. So we usually leave that on by default. Once you've set up this first tab, you just click next. And this is where you get the chance to set your actual timetable. So let's say, you might say, and some of the options here are really handy, like Monday to Friday. So I'm just going to delete all the others. Let's say you work Monday to Friday, but you never want to take meetings before, 10 a.m. You just might make it every day from 10 a.m. and you don't want to take meetings after 3 p.m. because you've got to do school drop-off, school pickup or whatever. So that would now set Monday to Friday. I can take meetings anytime, assuming that time's available. That's your availability window. This is what they'll see in the meetings link. So you can see a little preview here. And the duration options, you can add more than one option, but I'd usually just recommend not letting the person pick. So I'd say just make one meetings link for your 30. If you want a 15-minute, make a whole separate meetings link for that. Because if you start adding more options, it's going to look like this for the customer, and they sort of have to pick the time. So why would they pick the duration? So usually you would just say, here's my 30-minute link, but you can have multiple times there if you want to. And then this option to consider working hours, that's just if you're setting your hours, working hours in HubSpot. Very rarely use that, but you can play around with that if you want to. Additional settings, you can choose what's shown here as the thumbnail, and usually just put organizer avatar. Again, you'll need to set up your profile. You'll need to have a headshot for it to populate there. And if not, you can just put company avatar. I've noticed that company avatar doesn't show on the preview, but once you actually publish the meeting, it will show up correctly, assuming you've got the company avatar installed. And then this is a really important one too. When can a meeting be scheduled? Get to choose how far ahead they can schedule. Now, if it's a sales meeting, it's a cold traffic, try to keep that as short as possible. So even just like 1 week or 5 days kind of thing, because if the person books too far ahead, they're probably going to forget what it was about. They might have already solved the problem that they're coming to you for. So make it shorter the better. If it's more like a customer service kind of thing or general, you can make it sort of 4 weeks ahead. Minimum notice time, just self-explanatory. The person can't book. Like if you only had 15 minutes here, the person could just book for half an hour from now, and suddenly you've got a meeting there. So most people would usually make that 4 hours, or if you don't want to wake up in the morning and find you've got a meeting at 9 a.m. So you might make it 12 hours or something like that. So the night before what you've got scheduled for the morning. Buffer time is just the timing around meetings. So if you don't want to take any meetings back to back, you can put a buffer time in there. Start time increment. Now I recommend matching this to the length of the meeting. So if you've got, if you're making a 1 hour meeting, in this case a 30-minute meeting, you don't want people sort of starting the meeting at 10:15 and things like that. You kind of want to keep it on the hour. So I usually just make the start time increment 30-minute blocks. So the only time you'd make it 15 minutes is if it's a 15-minute meeting. And then these you just leave default. It's just going to detect, so if the person's in a different time zone, it's going to detect where they are, and it's going to show them times in their time zone and match it to yours. So that's that. And then up here, it's kind of hidden away, so you don't click next just yet. You've got form up here, and the form is just what information you want to gather at the time of them booking the meeting. So by default, it just asks for first and last name and email. You might add a phone number, for example, if you want to collect their phone number. And you can save that, and then obviously required or optional, some things there. If it's not an existing contact property, you might want to make a custom question. Like I often say, add anything that will help prepare for this meeting. I think that's what Calendly uses, and it's just a nice little open-ended question. So if you're not quite sure what it's about, they'll usually put in there, and you make it optional. Capture, we don't usually put that on unless you're getting lots of spam bookings. It's not usually a problem. Allow guests is a really handy feature, so that will let the person add their team members. Really good for sales. If someone's coming to inquire, they might want to add some other people from their team, and for customer service as well. So I'd recommend leaving that on unless you've got a good reason not to, or adding it on. And data privacy and consent, not relevant unless you've got some kind of compliance issues going on there. Additional settings, it is a good idea to pre-populate with known values because they're already in your CRM. It will pre-fill, so they don't, if you already know their name and phone number and stuff, you're not going to have to make them add it again. It'll just pre-fill it from what you've got in the CRM. And then we usually leave this off because it's actually a bit creepy if you put this on. If they've already filled in this info, it's just going to confirm the booking, and then they don't actually realize they've booked because they're still waiting to click confirm or whatever. So just leave that off. So that's the form steps. And then finally, confirmation. You can redirect them to like a thank you page, HubSpot thank you page, or you can just have a little default thing in the widget. So it's really up to you. And then finally, you can collect payments if you want to. It won't let you collect payments if you've turned on the reschedule and cancel option. You have to have that off to collect payments at this stage. And you will need to have like Stripe or your payment processor connected and payment links set up to be able to turn on collect payments. So just something to keep in mind. But other than that, it's actually a pretty nice interface for collecting payments. So once you've got those steps done, you click next, and then I would definitely have on the confirmation email, so that as soon as they book, it's going to send them things saying, you're scheduled in, here's here's it's just a very basic default, and you can send yourself a test if you want to do that. Not a lot of that is one complaint. There's not a lot of customization options over that confirmation email. It's just very generic and you can't really edit it. So if that's important to you, I would actually turn off the confirmation email and go and create a separate automated email if you want to add custom information, like here's what to bring to your meeting, and here's, if it's an in-person meeting, here's the address and that sort of thing, which you can do using a workflow. Pre-meeting reminder, really, really handy, especially again for sales and cold traffic and things like that. You can add as many reminders as you want. So I usually just do 1 hour before and 1 day before. Don't want it to be overwhelming, and they're going to be email reminders. And that one you can customize a little bit more. That's that. And then, once you've finished, that's pretty much all the options. You click the final button, create scheduling page, and then you can go in and have a look and make sure it's appearing how you want. Make sure there's no issues with it. And there it is there. And sure enough, it's got times blocked out that I'm not available. And it's showing. So it is working with my, if you just happen to see like every day, all day available here, there might be a problem with it syncing to your calendar. Make sure your avatar looks right. Everything. And I'd recommend just going through the steps and booking as if you're a stranger, and then making sure it all comes into your calendar and things like that. So that's basically how to use the HubSpot calendar link, and I hope that was helpful. All right, cheers.